So that's what it is. It's the hair. That's for you.
Yeah, I said last time, so who's gone?
Sitting right there.
Someone's thinking of me.
Someone's thinking. The last 2 weeks have been busy.
On Friday. Come back for a week.
There you go. You're like mayor. Do it. Skittle gummies. Why not?
Have you had one?
Yeah. Yeah, once before. They're not bad. Yeah. There's that. What's that? Oh, more gummies. Yes. Yeah, yes. You ready? Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We appreciate everybody being here today. We're going to call our Harriman City Planning Commission meeting for this Wednesday, April 16th, 2025 to order. This time we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, who will be led by Troy Rush. Thank you.
Give me the time. If it all stand and just repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Troy. All right, we do have a full quorum today. We appreciate folks being here tonight. I'll begin and ask if there's any conflicts of interests for any of the items from the Planning Commission at this time. Okay. Seeing none, before we jump into the agenda, we do have a number of items that are up for public hearing tonight, so I do want to go ahead and read the public comment policy and procedure for Harriman City. The purpose of the public comment policy is to allow citizens to address items on the agenda. Citizens requesting to address the commission will be asked to complete a written comment form and present it to the Deputy City Recorder. In general, the chair will allow an individual 3 minutes to address the commission. A spokesperson recognized as representing a group in attendance may be allowed up to 5 minutes. And this policy applies to all public hearings as well. So with that, we'll move on to item 4.1. Sheldon. And maybe before you begin, I'll just make a notice that this one is not on for public hearing. This is just an administrative item for us at this time.
Might be the only item that's not on, but.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. So the first item on the agenda for this evening is a utility substation for a natural gas regulation station. This was brought to us from Enbridge. The reason they're requesting this, well, the site they've chosen is located off of Harry Main Street. It's in the Hidden Oaks development area, specifically in Hidden Oaks Pod 2. The area is owned R115. It's a little over a half acre. The reason this has been brought to us is just they need to add another regulator station here in Harriman to keep up with the demand and provide for future growth in the city. What they're proposing is a gas regulation station. On this site itself, they'll have a 15 by 15 foot building. It's 14 feet tall. It's about 225 square feet. The building itself will be constructed at an integral colored, tan colored CMU with a standing metal seamed roof. And that shed itself is to house the, I guess, the utilities or the pumps and stuff for this regulation station. And in addition to the utility building there will be an 8-foot precast fence that surrounds the entire site with wrought iron vehicle gate and then a man gate of wrought iron as well. Again, they have provided a landscaping plan. They were conscious about providing low-maintenance plant material because this is an unmanned site, so it's not going to see a lot of foot traffic from Enbridge, so they just want to be cognizant of the fact that, you know, easy maintenance for their landscaping material there. Again, zoning has looked at the proposal, and it does meet the standards outlined in city ordinance. Engineering, this isn't necessarily a concern. They just, you know, need to have a stormwater maintenance agreement submitted, and that's usually done through the pre-construction process, a little further down the road. Just wrapping up, staff does recommend approval with these 4 conditions. If you guys have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer those, and the applicant is here as well to address any other concerns related to the application, the request.
Excellent. Thank you, Sheldon. Are there any questions for Sheldon?
I'm curious about, it noted fire safety, like staff had reviewed fire safety. Can you just tell us what that entails?
I'm sorry?
Fire safety and like monitoring for leaks and things like that?
Yeah, I'll probably have the applicant speak on that.
Okay.
It's something they'll probably know better than I would. I'm certain there's safety precautions built in there.
Nice. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. So if the applicant's here, it sounds like I've got a question for you. So, yeah, go ahead and state your names for us, for the record.
I'm Kevin Mulvey, a consultant for Enbridge, and this is,
Hi, I'm Aaron Mozioski with Enbridge.
And go ahead and present any additional information you may have for us. Maybe he did good enough for you, but if no,
I think Sheldon did great. So
okay, and
any
then,
questions?
excellent. Then there was the question regarding safety and for these type of facilities, just kind of help us understand. Yeah.
The site will have telemetry for pressure monitoring, so any abnormal conditions would notify our operations center immediately. I don't believe we have a fire suppression system is required with the U occupancy building being unmanned, but we do have the telemetry to report any abnormal conditions. There's a redundancy with equipment for the pressure reducing regulators. You have worker, you have a backup monitor regulator, and then there's also a slam shut as a tertiary overpressure protection. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate you being here tonight. Looks like a really good use of that really awkward piece of property that's there. So, and appreciate the landscape and the beautification that's being proposed as well. Any discussion? Those are my comments. Any other thoughts from anyone? All right.
I agree with what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, good use of that piece of property.
Yeah. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion. This is not on for public hearing, so this is purely administrative item for the Planning Commission.
I can make a motion to approve item 4.1 with the 4 staff recommendations.
Okay, we have a motion by Darrell.
Second?
We have a second by Jackson. We'll do a roll call vote for this. Brody.
yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Heather.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Darrell.
Yes.
And Andrea.
Yes.
All right, that motion passes. Thank you for being here. We'll move on to item 4.2, which is a review and consideration of a preliminary approval, of a 9-lot residential subdivision.
Okay, so this is a request for, I guess, the phase 4 of the Sky Ranch development. It's located off of Rose Canyon Road, just west of the existing Sky Ranch development. The site here is a little over 5 acres. This property was rezoned from A143 to A110 sometime last year, I believe it was, in April, I think. And that did carry a zoning condition of a maximum density of 1.8 units per acre. What the applicant is proposing is a 9-lot subdivision. Based on that acreage, they are meeting that 1.8 units per acre. We'll go back here. So part of that proposal, obviously, is a 9-lot residential subdivision with a singular access off of Rose Canyon Road. Again, there will be a precast wall along the west side of the east side of the development along Rose Canyon Road as is required by ordinance. The site plan here, the landscaping plan that we're showing here is they're accommodating for future drive approaches. So you're not seeing all the landscaping in the areas where we would typically see those. Again, this is something that would be reviewed again through the final plating, and then with each building permit application, we do review the landscape plan to ensure that they are meeting those requirements in the parking strips. Again, you know, the only concerns, that's not necessarily a concern, just, you know, planning is just, I guess I was just addressing the landscape plan there for planning and zoning. Engineering, they just asked us to add a requirement that there's no drive approach access off the west side of Lot 1, just due to the radius. And
Makes
just
sense,
safety.
safety issues, yep, makes sense.
That being said, staff does recommend approval with the following conditions. Again, a lot of these conditions are what are required by code, but I'd just like to reinstate those as conditions of approval.
Very good.
Any questions for me?
Yeah, any questions for Sheldon?
Okay. The applicant is here if you have any questions. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, Brody, did you have something? No? Oh, okay.
Okay, okay.
Great, thank you, Sheldon. Yeah, we'll go ahead and ask the applicant, come forward and state your name and provide any additional information you may have for us that you'd like us to know about before we move on. This one is up for public hearing as well, so there'll be an opportunity after,
Okay.
if need be. But yeah, any additional information?
Yeah, Jeff Neal. I'm part of a group of 4 owners. The 3 other partners are all builders. Same group that did Sky Ranch, where we did 66 lots. The same 3 builders are building on these 9 lots, and it's going to be a great community with custom homes on it also.
Awesome.
Any questions?
Yeah, any questions for the applicant?
No, I like what you guys have been building.
Yeah.
Looks really nice.
Yeah, it looks nice. I appreciate the new layout as well. So, okay, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you being here. As mentioned, we do have multiple items up for public hearing tonight, so we're going to go one by one on these items. So at this time, I'm going to just open up the public hearing for this particular item, this 9-lot residential subdivision. If there's anyone who'd like to make any comments, by all means, come forward. Yes, yeah, go ahead and, yep. Thank you. Would you like to make a statement as well? Please just state your name as well for the record.
Troy Rushton, 3266 West Water Street, Riverton, but I'm here on behalf of my parents that live at 13232 Rose Canyon Road and have since 1960, correct? They've been there a while. But, so they live directly on the north side of the parcel, and they're definitely in support of this. Jeff's done a great job with what he's already done, and he's engaged him in conversations about the fencing and the turn radius and stuff. So, you know, ideally, nothing would have ever changed in the world, but it did. And so they're in support of it, and they look forward to seeing what he's going to do on the parcel there. So that's it.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Okay, seeing no further public comment, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
We have a motion by Heather.
Second.
Second by Jackson. All in favor? Aye. All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Any comments or discussion from Planning Commission? Any thoughts? Pretty sure
Looks great.
Yeah.
I have one question for the developer, probably. I know it's just a preliminary or an idea, but with the pickleball court, is the plan to fence that off and gate it, or is that going to be open, so to speak, to a public in general? I understand it's going to be HOA owned.
Yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, we plan to have it HOA managed by all the 9 property owners and maintained by them. And our initial thought is to gate it so that, it's only for the use of the community. So, and then whatever, the amenity would be more exclusive and give them, at least a reason to feel like they feel good about paying for it every month, right? So, but that's our plan.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I was just a little concerned if it was open in general, people parking along the entryway to that, because it's right there near the intersection, or near the road, so people maybe parking along there wouldn't be the greatest, but if it's fenced off,
It's funny you bring that up. That was one of our concerns also. And so that's why we decided we would put a code on a gate with a code.
Yep.
So no one can use it unless they have the code to get in. And then Lot 1, which is right next to it, will be the initial, I will call him a manager president or whatever, so, they'll be able to monitor and easily, keep a good eye on it to make sure it's maintained and, and only used by those who it should be being used by, right? So.
Great. Maybe while you're there, I do have one more question for you. There's these recommendations, any concerns with what staff's recommending here, these 5 recommendations that are on the screen right now as condition of these approvals as well?
What was that again?
These 5 conditions that are listed here, are there any concerns that you have with any of these, or they seem reasonable to us? I just want to give you that opportunity to comment if there was anything you might have to add.
I think it looks like they're things they've already, that we've done in
You've
our
already
other
talked about,
subdivision, right? I
okay.
don't think any surprises.
Yeah, and the drive approach on Lot 1, I think that makes sense as well. I think that definitely something we would want to maintain, but just want to make sure you didn't have any comments about any of these, so
No,
I'll give you
was
that opportunity.
Yeah, it looks like they had a little red line on that.
Yeah.
We still need to correct, but.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I haven't ran it by our engineer yet, but I don't see a problem with it, right?
Perfect. Okay.
So,
Is this a public or private road?
public. So the only thing the HOA will do is manage we included the entry. If you look at the landscaping map, that we have a map just showing the first, just across from the amenity, all the way to the corner, and then out onto Rose Canyon. The HOA will manage that, just to make sure it always looks nice, mowed and well manicured. And then when each lot owner will maintain
Their own property.
their own, curb strip in front of their home.
Yeah.
So, but
Okay.
yeah, we have set it up so that all 9 owners participate in managing, the areas that are, keeping it looking nice, we're in the entry.
The common area, the entry, the pickleball court, the
Right.
drain, yeah.
So is that strip just north of the road? Is that part of Lot 9?
Yeah, once you come in and once you pass we'll call it a pickleball court, once you pass that common area, Lot 9 will maintain the rest of it. And we've decided Lot 9, it's about a 21-foot wide piece of land going along there. We're going to give that to Lot 9 to use and landscape. Maybe they'll have a nice, grow box garden area or something going on in there, but they can fence it, within city code, right, or whatever you're allowed to do on a corner lot. So.
Gotcha. Great. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate your time. Cool. Any discussion?
I think I'm ready to make a motion.
Go for it.
Okay, go
I'll
ahead.
make a motion to approve item 4.2 with staff's 5 recommendations.
Perfect.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Jackson, second by Brody. Again, roll call vote on this action. Brody?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
And Andrea?
Yes.
Yes, great. That motion passes. Appreciate you being here. Looking forward to it. All right, we'll move on to item 4.3. This is for Lauren.
All right, we'll be looking at an amendment for the Mountain View Plaza plat. This is in the northern part of our city. Here's a closer look of what it currently looks like. So as we were discussing, this is our current existing plat. If you want to pay attention here to Lot 5 and Lot 3, those are the ones that will be adjusted in this upcoming plat. This is the proposed plat, so it is splitting that Lot 5 into 2, renaming what was Lot 6 into Lot 7. And then Lot 3 has gotten smaller. That corner plaza will be taken out of Lot 3, and then the common areas will be managed by the developer.
I like that.
There are no issues for zoning or engineering, and we recommend approval with the following conditions. As there are 2 common areas now, we just would like to ask that they name them something like Parcel A and Parcel B. That way they can be delineated.
Sure. Makes sense. Great. Any questions for Lauren? Okay, great, thank you. Aaron, I see you're here. If you want to come up and provide any additional information for us.
Thanks for the opportunity. Aaron Osman with the Mountain View Plaza Group. We really wanted, if you can go back to that, the plot, the updated one, I just wanted to point out a couple things. We wanted to make sure as we proceed with this project that especially the plaza area and the common areas that are around that space, and then just clarifying to make sure that there's no misunderstanding with future property owners that that common area around the plaza needs to be maintained by the entire HOA structure that we're trying to build there. That was a little confusing with the original plat, and that's why we made the change. And we wanted to also divide those two buildings because there's actually two full buildings there instead of, you know, each of the lots need to have one building in it. That was our intent.
Yeah.
And that really is the summary.
It looks like, maybe real quick, I just noticed here when we brought this up, looks like drive-through aisles behind both lot 5 and 6. I guess that'll be some type of access easement across those so that each lot can, I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
public,
we tried to divide it that way with that intent.
Yeah, perfect.
Any questions for me at all?
Yeah, any other questions for Aaron?
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, this one is up for public hearing, so at this time, again, we'll open up public hearing for this particular item on the agenda. If there's any comments. Okay. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I have a motion by Heather.
Second.
Second by Preston. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any discussion from the commission?
Maybe
Makes
just
sense. Clarification.
a quick note. I
Yeah.
assume all the cross-access agreements are set in place as we make this.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's all part of this, right, Lauren? I had that question regarding the easements and stuff. I'm assuming that's all part of the plat, so. Okay. Yeah, we can add a third condition then for that. Sounds like.
Well, then maybe one last, any building elements that are connecting it, just make sure the building department's happy with that.
Yeah, sounds like they're two separate buildings, though. There's nothing. Yeah, yeah.
There's adjoining buildings where there's,
Well, I just think if there's a trellis or something between them.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's an open space between the two buildings, walkways and stuff, right? So there's nothing that's connecting that would have to, okay, be coordinated. Perfect.
That's it.
cool. I'll entertain a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve item 4.3 with staff's 2 conditions.
Did you want to make the third one as well?
And sorry, we'll add a third one. If there's any, I guess, drive aisles that cross multiple parcels, that there's a cross easement access granted.
Perfect. We have a motion by Brody,
Second.
second by Heather. Again, roll call vote. We'll start with Andrea.
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
And Brody?
Yes.
All right, that motion passes. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate the work going on there. It looks like lots happening. Yeah, yep. Businesses are open up there too, so looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Clint, we'll move on to item 4.4.
All right, these next 2 items are fairly simple and straightforward. This first one is it's a subdivision in the Auto Mall. The subdivision was recorded in March of 2024. And it was a 3-lot subdivision. The applicant is requesting to increase the size of Lot 3 from 4 acres to 6 acres. As you can see here, the lot line for Lot 3 cuts off about 2 acres from that blue parcel, which is what is being proposed in the new subdivision. And the only thing that will change is there is a utility easement in the middle of what's shown as Lot 4 here, but we'll talk about that in a second too. But that easement will shift from where it's at now to the northern boundary of the new lot. We're also recommending that the lot stay named the same, is Lot 3. So you have still Lot 1, 2, and 3 of the Auto Mall subdivision. In terms of findings, it is consistent and compliant with the AMSD and zone and MDA, and we recommend approval with these 3 simple recommendations. Any questions for me?
Perfect. Any questions? Yeah. All right, thank you, Clint. I assume the applicant's here as well. Please come forward. State your name for the record and provide any additional information you'd like us to know.
Hi, Julie Smith. Don't have anything additional unless you
Okay.
have questions.
Any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, Julie. All right, this item is up for public hearing. So at this time, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for comment. Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I have a motion by Heather,
Second.
second by Preston. All in favor? Aye. Any discussion? Any thoughts?
Good catch on the Lot 3 thing for the OCD people of the world.
Does that sound like a motion to me?
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve with the following conditions provided by city staff, the 3 conditions.
Approve which item?
Oh, approve item 4.3.
4.4.
Or sorry, 4.4, with the conditions set forth.
Thank you. I have a motion by Preston. Sounds like a
Second.
Heather, second by Heather. Again, call for a vote. Brody?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Darrell?
Yes.
And Andrea?
Yes.
Wonderful. That motion passes. We'll move on to item 4.5.
Okay, this is also another simple request, just the Midas Crossing Retail Subdivision, just across the way here on 126th and Harriman Main Street. The plat was recorded in 2021. The lot in question here highlighted, all they're proposing to do is to split that in two, again, to provide just additional building pads for different property owners. The lots will be 3A and 3B. They meet all the other code requirements of the C2 zone, and nothing else on the plat will change, just adding that property line down the middle. So with that being said, we're recommending approval as proposed, so.
Perfect.
Any questions?
Any questions for Clint? Thank you. Move right along. We'll let the, oh, you're up again. It's the same. Very good. Anything more for
And
us?
one more after this, but no
Okay.
comments at all, unless you have any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. All right. Again, this one is up for public hearing, so I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for any comments on item 4.5. Seeing no comments, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I have a motion by Heather.
Second.
And a second by Preston. All in favor? Aye. All right. Public hearing's closed. Any discussion? A motion.
Ready to make a motion?
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 4.5 with the 1 staff recommendation.
Okay, I have a motion by Preston.
I'll second.
Second by Brody. We'll do a roll call vote. Preston.
Yes.
Darrell.
Yes.
Andrea.
Yes.
Heather.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Brody.
Yes.
All right, that motion passes. All right, item 4.6. Lauren.
Alrighty, so this is not quite an amendment because the plat has not been recorded yet, but we are back because there has been a change since the last time you saw this. So we're back in that northern part of the city still. This is the property that we're looking at. It might look familiar. It was here about a month ago, and it looked like this. So we have lots 3, 4, and 5. That was in continuation with the other plats that happened. These are being renamed to 1, 2, 3, and 4 on Plat 3. There you go. So currently we have lot 314 is one of the new lots. We're asking that be named 302 just for consistency and clarity. And as you can see, all that changed here was that top lot is cut in half. I will also note that the street name has changed, but it is a continuation across Harriman Main Street with the same street.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's better for me as well.
Yeah. So there are once again no concerns here, and the recommendations are just keeping the lot names consistent.
Perfect. Thank you, Lauren. Any questions for Lauren? All right. She's already off anyway. Very good. You're more than welcome to come up and say no comments, or do we have any questions for
This is the
Julie?
last one, so
Yeah.
thank you for your time and for planning staff helping.
Yes, good. Thank you very much. Okay, this one is, again, on for public hearing, so I'll open up the public hearing for any comments on item 4.6. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I have a motion by Heather, second by Preston. All in favor? Aye. Great. Any discussion? Any thoughts? Any motion?
I'll make a motion to approve item 4.6 with staff's 2 recommendations.
Perfect. Motion by Heather,
I'll second.
second by Brody. And we'll do a roll call vote. We'll start with Brody.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Heather.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Daryl.
Yes.
And Andrea.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. That motion passes. Thanks for being here. Appreciate your help. All right, the next 3 items are legislative items. Again, these are recommendations that the Planning Commission will be making to the City Council. I believe right now the plan is to have those go before the City Council next week. But tonight we'll do our part, have Michael do a presentation on all 3 items at this time, and then we'll have 3 separate hearings on these particular items. So, Michael.
Thank you. As stated, we will be hearing 3 items. The first 2 items will be, the part of the applicant will be the city. Blake Thomas, our Community Development Director, will be answering your question. And that is because the first item is a development agreement amendment, of which, of course, the city is a partner to that agreement. The other partner in that is Land Reserve Incorporated. They own the Creek Ridge Master Development Project. The second is the property in question, the subject of the amendment. That property is being transferred to the city. And again, as under an acknowledgement with Land Reserve, they have authorized the city to represent their interest as an agent on that project before the Planning Commission tonight. The third item is a new development agreement, and Ryan Button, one of our development partners that the Commission is very familiar with, he will be here and answering any of your questions on that proposal. I'm just going to be going through kind of the typical structure, the process, the recommendations being made by the city to the Planning Commission, and then as stated, there will be a public hearing on each of these items with a separate motion. This is the general area of this project. It has been the subject of one prior amendment in the city, and that was dealing with the reducing some units in this project as the city was exploring and approving the Mountain Ridge Development Agreement near Mountain View Corridor. That some of the commissioners were on the commission, I think, at the time when we did that. This is that property exchange map that we reviewed 2 weeks ago when we heard some of the other elements of this large project. Again, the objective that the city is exploring. And I wish to emphasize that the City Council has been very engaged in discussions with multiple participants, multiple property owners, but no decision has been made. This is all part of a process of just reviewing and recommending these proposals, which ultimately will be the City Council's decision as the legislative body of the city. So we appreciate the public comment and the feedback that we have received throughout this project. Again, specifically, we're focusing on this yellow parcel, the Creek Ridge part that is being removed potentially from the Creek Ridge MDA, and then the creation of this new MDA. As we stated 2 weeks ago, these different parts of this property swap or property exchange, we've had different community meetings. Even though those community meetings were tried to be focused on one particular element, we tended to hear concerns or comments on multiple parts of the project. The one that was more specific to Creek Ridge was the January 21st community meeting that was held here at City Hall. Included I think it was like a 2-page or 3-page summary of the notes that were taken during that meeting that was included in your packet for reference. As was mentioned, we did do a public hearing notice on this for our previous meeting. That was April 2nd. At the request of the applicant, we had agreed to open the hearing and continue the hearing. So we're going to take more public comment if if presented before the Planning Commission tonight. So that's been, of course, rescheduled, and here we are. Now, I wanted to make a note. This was a summary that Wendy Thomas, the Assistant City Manager, had shared previously with the City Council. It was a summary after we did all the community outreach. And this was a specific list of kind of concerns we heard. Again, this is similar to what you saw in those notes, but you can see we mailed out 397 postcard notices. We had 38 individuals who attended that community meeting. We didn't receive any handwritten comments in that meeting, but in general, these are the kind of the highlights from those things that were in your packet. So we have been trying to listen, and the public comments have been having an impact on what is being drafted, what is being prepared, what you have seen, and also what the council will see. So with that said, I'm just going to go through the three different components. Very high-level review. Again, if you have detailed questions about the agreements, the amendments, Blake and Ryan Mutton will be able to answer those questions. So highlighted in the middle, this is that area that was originally planned, is planned right now for a park. And as you know, essentially the city is considering leveraging the acquisition of this property, which is by agreement. This property will be dedicated to the city under the terms of the existing development agreement. And then essentially using that property value to acquire a larger potential park to the east that by all kind of elements of analysis, we believe, the staff believes, the city administration believes is better property for public space. They both can be developed for residential. Again, this was planned to be a public park. You can see along the north end, and this little highlighted section in blue is kind of covering that, but there is a creek, a dry creek bed. And then along that, we planned some trail connections and different things. That riparian area will still be dedicated to the city. We'll still acquire that as part of open space. So the MDA amendment largely is detailing the removal of this property from the Creek Ridge MDA. And then there's a few other kind of concessions or negotiations that Land Reserve has requested of the city. One of the things I want to mention again is that these MDAs are been treated by not only the court system but also by the Utah Code to essentially be a type of zoning amendment. It doesn't rely on the traditional zoning tools, but as far as the legal impact and the process that cities go through in reviewing, analyzing, scheduling hearings, and then ultimately having the council make the final decision is very similar to any other legislative land use issue relative to zoning. And so these are a negotiated agreement between the city and whatever that other party is, a property owner, a developer. They are recorded. These agreements are typically recorded with the county because we want to tie these agreements to the land. As you know, many of these projects are larger, and we often see sub-development partners operating within these development areas, these development agreements. And we want to make sure that we're conveying those contractual obligations to any sub-developer that may purchase a portion of the land for development under the agreement. They are also subject to enforcement, but we've also seen that these can continue to be negotiated. It is not uncommon to see amendments on these projects, as we know, over time. These MDAs often have a lifespan that could be 10, 20, 30 years. I mean, they typically are in years. It takes a long time to build through these projects, and market changes, opportunities change, partners change. And so it's not uncommon to see these amendments being proposed. Again, and these amendments require both parties to agree to. Right? One cannot unilaterally decide what an amendment is and force it onto the other partner. Through this process, we've also been keeping our engineering team in the loop. There's been a lot of concern about what are the impacts on our public infrastructure and on traffic. You heard 2 weeks ago that our city engineer has done some of that research. We talked about the impacts on schools and different things, and we try to answer those questions with the Planning Commission. Now, this is on me completely. I had advertised this, and I don't know if this was a typo or if I had this has been kind of a moving picture, but you'll notice I've struck out that it's to add 36 units. It's actually, and Blake caught this for me today, it's 27, so it's fewer units than what was noted. And you'll see that that's not actually in the agreement. What it is that there's a function of 7 commercial acres that were in the existing MDA. The proposal is to reduce that minimum acreage down to 3.7. The density that is already in the agreement is 8 units per acre. So if you take the difference of 7 minus 3.7 and you times it by 8, you get like 26 point something. Rounded up, I think the intention is 27 units. But there's a maximum number of units that's stated. I think it's 1747 in the agreement. And you'll see on this next slide, the previous slide, sorry. Maybe it's too small. Yeah, 1720. And so they'll be amending, assuming that this gets approved by the city council, they'll amend that maximum total allocated residential units to say 1747. That's in the MDA amendment that's in your packet. So we have the Creek Ridge MDA amendment pulling out that property from the agreement. We want to make sure that the rest of the property is still bounded by the agreement and this amendment. And then once that agreement, or once that parcel is removed, by the way, and I should have said, this is the same conditions that are in your report, recommended conditions, but please note that it should be 27 homes, not 36, if you were to make a motion tonight. Then we're talking about changing the general plan. Obviously, we've talked about that this was intended to be a park space. Our general plan reflects that. In making this amendment for trying to facilitate residential development of 136 homes on this property, the city has submitted an application to amend the general plan with a neighborhood residential land use district, land use designation. And it's been my understanding that if the property were to be surplused, this is the direction that the city would likely go, independent of some of these other decisions. Okay, so the general plan amendment has standards in the land development regulation or land development code. These are the standards that are summarized in your packet with findings. Staff has reviewed these, and yes, can other uses be appropriate for this property? Can a park be reasonably promote the public interest? Absolutely. But can a residential development on this property also reasonably promote the public interest? That's the position that the city administration has taken, saying yes. It is a change in plan. It definitely has an impact. But each of these general plan standards of review, the finding is that they have still been met, even with a change in proposed land use. So again, the motion is to recommend to the City Council approval of the amendment that is proposed in your packet tonight. And then the last one is what is the planning on that property if we were to switch it from open space to residential? As you know, we're talking specifically about single-family detached homes. The master developer has requested a lot of flexibility on minimum lot sizes and different things, and you can see that this conceptual plan, admittedly it is a conceptual plan, does indicate a lot of variety in lot sizes. This is a potential layout of what that project would look like. We would definitely need at least 2 access points out on 6400 West. And you're seeing that this does not have any vehicular access, of course, from the adjacent project to the south.
So before you leave that,
Yes,
it looks like
please.
on the south side, I remember when we approved that
property and the development on the south, we had those connections for the pedestrians to get into what was going to be the park, and we had those, though, it looks like you're still
Yes.
looking to maintain those connections into
Yep.
those.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're still planning on
So
having
there'll be
that
some
trail
pedestrian-
system tie into the riparian Midas Creek.
Because it'll
Yep.
still have that connection.
Yeah, it'll
On-
still.
Looks like
it'll-
you got the two, the one's a little further west, right in that corridor. What is that, the white space, I guess, is that going to be open space
Yes.
within the new, okay.
Yes,
it
and so
would-
you'll see the trail extend northward, and it
Perfect.
will need to cross, I mean, potentially, if this little cul-de-sac on the west side of the conceptual plan is constructed as shown, that trail would cross that neck of that cul-de-sac and then continue north up to Midas Creek and then head towards the east.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it still has those connections.
Have you gotten any feedback for people that bought in this other subdivision where it was like, hey, this is going to be a park?
Yes, and that was noted in the summary in your packet. And also, I should mention, we acknowledge that we've received a public comment that was forwarded to the commission today, saying essentially that same thing that they anticipated. The park, they paid a premium for that lot, and there's concerns about what that impact is. So again, just the same thing about, this is treated essentially as a type of zoning amendment with these new MDAs. And then these are the recommendations that were in your packet. So again, as far as the process is concerned, do you have any questions for me? Any engineering questions or some of those negotiated agreement points you may,
I think
we'll
I
have the
do,
applicant
Mike.
speak to those.
If you could explain the 27 lots again, I got kind of lost.
So,
with that.
so the agreement, the amended agreement for Creek Ridge is saying there's a minimum requirement of 7 commercial acres. Land Reserve has said we'd like to reduce that to 3.7. And we'd mentioned this in the work meeting, that one of the other things is that they would like to have the flexibility as to where they place that within Area A of this project. Right here, up in this northern, south of 118th. So the agreement also says that the maximum density per acre in the Creek Ridge agreement right now, this is already established, is 8 units per acre. So if you take 7 units, minus 3.7, and then take that difference and times it by 8. That's the 27.
Okay, so I guess one of the difficulties I'm having is matching up this area A to the red crosshatched shape, the two shapes.
So the red crosshatch shape is basically this blue.
Blue section.
Yeah. This is the part that was going to be a park, and now it's, and maybe the shape is not, I just drew kind of what was outlined on that map, but you can see this shape of the general plan amendment, and then the shape of this is trying to mimic that, fill in that area.
Do we kind of know what the minimum lot sizes are there?
Again, you could ask the applicant on that one. I think they were trying to get flexibility on that. Like we talked
Some
about last
larger,
week
some
on some of the
smaller,
others.
just have a variation there.
I had one question. Will you go back to the property exchange map?
Blake told me he had a better one of these, and I forgot to put it in. So sorry, Blake.
So on that,
Tells the story.
just remind me, the proposed athletic complex, is that owned by Land Reserve right now?
That is owned not by us. That's owned by Ryan Button's development company. That's part of the Teton Ranch, the Teton Ranch MDA.
Okay, and do you know what it's currently zoned for?
I think it's R210. Right, we changed the general plan. That was your recommendation? Oh, is it R110? Okay. Yep, sorry. Yeah.
R110 now.
So do you know how many units that would be allowed there?
I don't recall. I mean, because again, it was all subject to the MDA, and this is where we had those large lots that were in that area originally.
I'm just wondering if we're getting kind of the same amount of housing that will be spread out in these other areas.
Again, I think you're willing to talk with the applicant on that issue. But again, that's what we kind of had talked about 2 weeks ago, so we're focusing just on the Creek Ridge. I mean, if you want to understand how it is in context, but those decisions or motions by the commission were already made, so.
Yeah, there were
Yeah.
more. There were more.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Lots, yes, that were, yep, being
I
proposed.
have a question, and it's kind of part of this area, but not the red spot. So can you go to the
You want
parcel, the red parcel map?
This one right here.
Right there. So bottom left corner, I guess, southwest section, behind the homes in the development that's already been approved, already going in place, the Creek Ridge development, I see there's that kind of dotted line area. Is that also just undeveloped riparian area or what?
Trail.
That's trail.
Yeah. And that's
Okay.
so this little pedestrian connection will
gonna
tie
connect
into
that
that trail.
trail.
And that trail will head north.
That's what I
Yeah, and then
figured.
tie up along the riparian area.
Okay.
And then head east.
Gotcha.
So I have a question. So obviously, for this part, we're talking about changing it from the parks to the residential. But part of this is also changing the amount of commercial that is in the MDA for this development.
Yeah, that's part of
Yes,
item 5.1.
not this piece.
Yeah.
Obviously not this
Yeah,
piece, it's
yeah.
up in the top
That's in
piece.
that's in
Yeah,
the first
I
item.
totally understand that. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, like in the other ones, we were just swapping open space for residential. And so my question is, are we losing commercial? Obviously, 3.5 acres less commercial. Is that being made up anywhere else in this? Not this development. I mean, it is tied to this development, but in this swapping process.
Maybe
I told you to save the hard questions for Blake.
Well, I was gonna say, maybe we have a tag team going on here too.
I
'cause
will,
that is
and Blake, you can be more specific, but I do know that what has happened since this plan was approved, we've also have had Olympia, and we have a large commercial center going in that project. I think what we've been hearing is we're kind of starting to compete with ourselves. The feedback is this is probably more suitable for some smaller commercial projects, right? But you can speak more specifically.
So as they've talked through the MOU with Land Reserve wants to have a minimum requirement. They wanted to have from 7 to 5. There's already 1.7 acres reserved in that C2 zone in Area B. So 1.7 is already there, and so they're gonna have a total of 5, but they can make more if they want to. The last I heard from them is they were doing a study to look at a potential grocer or some other things that would fit in with their neighborhood. And so they want to be able to move it around and have a minimum requirement, but be allowed to go larger. So the development agreement's allowing for that, because they do think there's a potential to have more, but they don't want to be locked into more and then have space they can't sell.
Sure.
Which we have throughout.
Yeah, that's what they're looking at, is more of the neighborhood 1 scale, maybe some C2, or C1 and a little bit of C2, but C1 would be embedded in the neighborhood and be more of that walkable type stuff that would service just that neighborhood.
Thank you. Was there other, don't leave, no, this is joint here, we tag teaming these, yeah. Process details, exactly. While you're both there, let's continue any other questions. Again, we can, I want to get the questions answered, we'll go to hearing and then we can have our conversation, but let's get our questions to these two.
I'm just curious how much this reduces the original amount of open space. So like how does the math work out? So originally they needed 20% of open space.
Yeah.
And what does this bring it down to?
So in the original development agreement, they were required to do 45 acres, or it was a 45-acre park is what it was called. As things laid out, Part of that included the right-of-way for 6400 West and the power line corridor and this park. And so when we broke all that down, it actually turned out to 35.6-ish acres. And then that still included the power line corridor and the road. So this comes down to, I think it's 28.4. So you're taking 28.4 acres of open space, which is the blue area here, and moving it over across the street and incorporating it into the 56 acres for the purpose of, the city was obligated to spend $2 million to do landscaping for this piece, which probably would have built a parking lot, a bathroom, and a tot lot, and maybe a quarter acre of grass. And so we would have had to go find funding for the rest of it. And this size of this property was never going to be adequate to go for funding from the county or the state. And so by moving it across the street and consolidating it into a 56-acre piece, we are now over the 50-acre threshold to be eligible for those outside funds. So that's the purpose of all this, is to be able to be eligible to go get outside funding, because our park impact fees and our park fees won't cover the cost it will take to actually develop this whole piece, this 28.5 acres. So,
Does 50 acres make it like a regional park? Is that kind of the threshold?
Sorry, what was
it? Is like 50 acres, were they consider like a regional park for the county?
That's where the funding mechanism comes into play.
So to be
anything over
eligible for
50.
ZAP funds, you
Yeah.
have to be at least 50 acres.
I included in your staff report on that item a section of the PUD. This was originally approved as a PUD and an MDA. And as we've talked about occasionally, you can satisfy that open space requirement with a fee in lieu or even off-site dedication that is suitable or acceptable to the city. Essentially, this development partner is still meeting the intent of that. It's just that we're taking that green space and moving it across the street. So we're still really satisfying the obligation to provide open space. We couldn't be making this property swap potentially without this dedication to the city. So we're just essentially moving it across the street, potentially.
Any other questions for him?
I think that, so the intent is to make it into soccer fields for, I guess, to.
Don't know.
Is that the case?
I don't know if
or-
they've got an intent, but I'll let.
We'd like to do that. It gives us an opportunity to consolidate open space to do whatever the city council decides to do with it, whether it's a park or fields or, so that is the original intent, but it does give us the opportunity to do other things.
I mean, I like that because then it can bring revenue to our city if we're bringing something
Right.
that caliber.
And we've been talking about this concept of the athletic complex, but that was an idea, a potential, but there's no commitment. I mean, it really is just acquiring.
And there's
the
no
property
guarantee
for some type of park.
And there's no guarantee if we get to this 50 acres that we're going to get funding either for it as well, right? I mean, it helps our cause, but there's no guarantee as of yet, right?
No guarantee yet.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of guarantees in life besides our taxes we just paid a couple days ago.
And that's part of the reason why we're here, is because the property to the west of this blue parcel, we'd anticipated adding that to this piece to get to 50 acres. And then after the Creek Ridge development was approved, Kennecott decided to take that property into South Jordan. So when South Jordan acquired that, we asked if they wanted to participate. They said no. So we were stuck trying to find something else to do, because we'd always anticipated finding a 50-acre piece in this area to do something. So when this opportunity came about, the council was supportive of it, and so here we are.
Yeah.
So Blake, you mentioned funding for a park in this area wasn't adequate at the time. Where's the funding coming from to maintain the Dry Creek bed area? Is that not part of that original funding process?
So the Dry Creek, mainly our maintenance on that is an asphalt trail. And so trails are our best bang for our buck, is what I've been told from our Parks Department. And so the cost per square foot for maintaining that is much less than like a grass field or an improved park. So we do have funds to maintain for things like that. But to build, costs have skyrocketed. Since this development agreement was written, I think in 2017, costs have doubled, and $2 million could have gotten us quite a bit back then, and it can't get us much anymore.
Great questions, great discussion. Should we let them have a seat and we'll get after our business? Okay. Thank you both. Michael, do you have any more? I think you've been through them all, right? Okay. So as it was mentioned, these items were continued from 2 weeks ago. And so there's 3 items on the agenda at this time. We're going to tackle these one at a time. We'll begin with item 5.1, which is the amendment to the Creek Ridge Master Development Agreement, as was discussed. And thank you, Michael, for having this up here. So with that, we will continue the public hearing on item 5.1, if there's any comments that would like to be made at this time. Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to close the public hearing for item 5.1.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for item 5.1.
I have a motion by Heather.
Second.
Second by Jackson. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Okay, any discussion? Again, we'll tackle 5.1 first as a planning commission. Any thoughts, discussion here?
I'm wondering if there's some kind of mechanism, and Michael, you may be able to talk to this, but if there's a mechanism to hold off changing the zoning and of these areas until it's more secured, the actual park across the street. My worry is that we're changing the zoning of these areas, and if that falls through, there's nothing to stop them from developing the other side as well as this one, and we're just losing open space. So I'm wondering, is there a mechanism that says, you know, and this may be for legal, is there a mechanism to assure that if we do change the zoning of these things, that they can be reverted back if that other side of the street falls through?
Or is that mechanism already in place with our current zoning?
Yeah, good question, and 2 comments, and Blake, you might want, if you want to give more clarity. The zone is already actually in place. Remember, we're just talking about changing the general plan itself. The zone is residential right now. I know that our city attorney, under the direction of the city council, in their consideration of all of these different pieces, he's going to write these agreements, the motions of the council, so that you have to have all the pieces go forward. You can't have one part and not the other part on these agreements. So yes, that's how we're protecting the city from maybe approving one thing but not getting the rest of it.
Right.
Yeah. So
and not so much like a zoning aspect of it, but in the actual general plan, or not the general plan, but the MDA.
The MDA.
Because that's what we're talking about now, is the MDA.
Yeah, we're talking MDA now.
But
right.
Right, we're talking about the MDA right now. So, yeah, by changing the MDA now, before the other parts are in place, is there any way to change it back? Because what happens when we change it from 120 or 1720 to 1747, you know, units, all of a sudden the MDA's changed and they're allowed to do more?
Great question. I think I'll give a little preview to next week's city council items on this one. So there's an exchange agreement. If you look back at the other slide that has all the swaps.
The one that you would have had may have shown it better that didn't get put in there.
No,
But no, I'm
Mike's is
kidding.
great for it. So that agreement, this property will be deeded to the city regardless, per the MDA with Creek Ridge, or with Land Reserve. And so the city will have control of this property. This property won't exchange to the developer until the Sorrento property, this is cleaned up, and there's a whole list of things, and then the swap happens, and we'll be guaranteed that property, and they'll get this property. And so there's a guarantee with that exchange that all these things must happen, and once they happen, then we get what we have anticipated, and they get what they have anticipated. And if those things don't happen, the MDAs die and go away. And
reverts
then
back to what
So the Creek Ridge
currently is.
MDA would still hold, but we would hold the property. So we'd be able to, we'd have it general planned and zoned properly. And then if the council chose to make a park at that time, they could come back and redo the general plan again. But that's the assurance, is the city owns the property, we're gonna hold it until we actually have guarantee that we get the piece of property we want. Does that answer it?
Another technical thing to be aware of is that even after the city council makes a motion, we still have to gather signatures. And so it's possible to just simply not sign the agreement, right? And then it's not in effect.
Right.
Thanks.
Good question. Any other discussion?
Were there any specific recommendations by staff related to 5.1?
Yeah, was there any conditions or thoughts on any staff recommendations associated with this one?
Yeah, we
Let's-
were on that.
Yeah, if you want to go to that one, that's probably the good.
This is the one where I said we need
There
to
you
make
go.
sure we
Oh, okay.
change. If you were to say units, we want to make sure we say
Want to reread these
27.
ones?
Is this
yeah.
development going to be an HOA? Is part of it the HOA?
That'll be up to the
developer?
The developer, if they have HOAs in different parts of this project.
Is it the same developer that did the south portion?
It's not anticipated to be. So there are CC&Rs on this property, and we're working to get those removed. And so then this would have its own. It's going to have
HOA.
private roads, or if it has private roads, it'll have an HOA. If it has public roads, they won't need an HOA. So,
Still to be
So
determined.
just remember, this is just amending the existing agreement.
Right.
That HOA question is on the third item.
Sorry.
Right, yeah.
We're trying to keep our heads straight on these items too.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's a good point. This is, this is amending the Creek Ridge MDA at this time, not the new MDA associated with that future development. So that's good clarification there. So yeah, let's again focus. Any further discussion here or a motion? Or again, these are all recommendations to City Council.
I just want to say, like, it makes sense why we want to do this. I just still just acknowledge that, you know, people who bought property thinking it was going to be a park, I feel for them. And
Yeah.
Just wanted to acknowledge that.
No, I
Yeah.
agree wholeheartely, yeah.
Yeah, my
But-
concern is very much about the open space and what those residents on that side are going to have access to. Thinking about the growth that we will have out there. Having open space that's centralized to these homes that are there and that will be there is really important to me, that we're keeping that open space. Granted, we are moving it down the street, right? But I am concerned about that. I would like to see, if possible, if there's like some sort of, like, is there anything showing us for this specific MDA where there is open space currently available? We don't remove this. Is there any open space already that's been developed?
Well, we talked about how there is open space along the creek
Midas
bed,
Creek.
right?
Yeah, the trail.
And there is some open space, because as you know, we often see these detention basins be used, have a dual purpose, right?
Right.
There's a play field next in Area B. There's a play field that's actually quite well designed next to that commercial corner. It's actually been a pretty good green area. So, you know, throughout these projects, you'll see little pockets of open space within these neighborhoods.
Well, and there on the north end of Area B, you did show the trail connection that would go into
Yes,
this blue
right.
hatched area. So there is some open space that's there. There is a connection. I know it's not quite
Yep,
what
right
the
there.
property owners
there's two
were
connections.
anticipating, but there is a connection, right, to get them over to Midas Creek, and then that's going to cross over 6400 west to the east and tie into that large
Well, I wonder,
regional park as well.
I
proposed
wonder
regional
if,
park.
if there would be, and this isn't, I'm skipping ahead probably still, but I wonder if there would be a way, and I understand the negotiation for they want to get as many units in as possible, but to maintain the homes that were promised the park on the back, if that was also part of that riparian trail.
That's item 5.3.
Yeah, I'll bring that up. I'm just
up there.
mentioning it, that's a thought.
And
The
again,
viability of the whole.
kind of this void, this white void, you know, and this is conceptual, but you can kind of see there will be open space. There will be
Yeah.
a trail system that will be right on the west and north sides.
Everything that's white in this parcel, and then, yeah, this other open space.
Approximately what
Yeah.
you're seeing. And we also have a we have some FEMA flood restrictions along that area, right? So it's not like they can just build right to the dry creek bed, so it'll hold them back.
And maybe we're getting too caught up on this, because again, this is 5.3, so this is back to the.
I should clarify, and I apologize. On this recommendation, the text for 1 and 2 is in your packet. These little sub-bullet points are not part of your motion. I was trying to explain, you know, for example, on that map where I showed you where it was 1420 units, obviously we just need to update that map, and I was trying to say, okay, we need to update the maximum dwelling units, you know, wherever that's referenced on that map, and then clarifying this amendment on how we're going to handle the commercial acreage within this floating area A. So that was just kind of an explanatory note.
So you've got the items 1 and 2 down below, but then you've got the 5 items up in the paragraph.
Well,
are all 7 of those, I guess, need to be considered as a part of
So
the?
a lot of this is text, right? It's all spelled out in the amendment.
Okay.
I was talking about like the map exhibit.
Yeah.
And in fact, the second bullet point, this was written based on the previous memorandum of understanding with Land Reserve.
Okay.
That draft has changed in your packet. And actually, our city attorney has already discussed that request where they had a request that the development of that parcel would meet city standards. Well, to us, city standards includes a master development agreement or a PDU overlay. We wanted to just clarify that. But that language was removed as it went from the MOU to the proposed MDA amendment. So it's probably not necessary, that second bullet point.
So really just focus on number 1.
Yeah, but you can include it if you want, but the first one, again, just making sure we update those exhibits prior to the recording. That's an obvious one, but we just want to make sure we capture that.
You do need us to clarify the 36 to 27.
Yeah.
On the motion. Okay. Any other discussion?
I know I'm not voting, obviously. I am concerned, though, about eliminating the commercial as well as obviously adding, instead of doing park space. I have the same concerns that you had about people buying lots with the understanding that they're backing up to a park, and then all of a sudden there's housing right behind them. And I know that this MDA was started before Olympia was in place. But I worry about Olympia too, because Olympia keeps decreasing the amount of commercial that they're doing as well. And so it seems like a trend that, you know, we're just doing these MDAs and then a lot of the parts get changed, which is appropriate, Mike, that you explained that is appropriate, that these MDAs get changed and they evolve as market forces, you know, dictate. But, you know, we work hard for the MDAs to get a certain, you know, design, and, you know, we just kind of let that go further and further and further. And so I just have concerns about it. That's all I'm saying.
You know, and that, again, is a very sympathetic, very understandable, you know, that frustration, that concern, that criticism of this potential change. It is also not uncommon, though. If you don't own the land, it's very difficult to say, I can bank on that it's always going to be that, or even that planned thing. Plans change. I'm not saying that, you know, the right, you know, the only answer here is to approve this amendment, right? I mean, that's your role to weigh into that. But that is just a common practice. I mean,
I acknowledge that.
I'm not saying that it's inappropriate to not approve an amendment, right? But it's typical. There's nothing illegal about it. It's anticipated. We've seen this over and over and again, and it's up to the process to decide do we agree with this? Right. And you're making a recommendation, and the city council is going to make that final decision.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I think it's undermining anything or it's illegal or anything, and I acknowledge that. Things change.
Yeah,
my wish would be that things change for the better, and that we're getting better things than what we initially agreed to, and not making concessions constantly, because that's what it feels like, you know, is that we're constantly making concessions. And the goal of the MDA, I think, would be to set a base level and then just improve upon that.
And I think that kind of trying to think through this is exactly what our city council's been trying to weigh as well. Like, is the vision for this park space, potential park space at this property, is that a betterment that is value to this community? That's what they're trying to weigh, right?
No, and I maybe add on to that, or pile on however you want to. I've lived here for over 21 years, and there's commercial areas throughout the community that just is not being developed commercially, right? And so that's just sitting there. There's nothing, there's no, taxes being collected on or anything like that. And so I'm hopeful, that our city staff and, our economic folks understand the market. They understand, the situation a whole lot better than I do as to what is necessary and best for the community as well. And maybe, but I'm going to trust that the recommendations and the information that our community, staff have, our city staff have, are a lot better understanding than what I do as
Right,
well
and that's
for
the purpose
these
of the
two.
general plan, is to look
Yeah.
ahead.
Yep.
To say, okay, where do we want those centers to be?
Yep.
But once you start changing those from the general plan and say, okay, in this area, we said commercial, but nothing's going in, let's just put residential in there. Guess what? It will never be commercial again, because you've changed it. And so, trying to see that plan and
disagree.
sticking to that plan and looking to the future and understanding, okay, not everything's gonna develop all at once. We still have to preserve open spaces. We still have to preserve commercial spaces. We still have to preserve civic spaces. We still have to preserve all these other places. So, yeah, that's.
Yeah, and we need, and preserve it, but also amend it as needed for what
Yes,
the
yes, of
market,
course,
what
of
the
course.
market will dictate and what we can, I hate seeing properties that have been sitting there for over 20 years, nothing happening on them because they're
I
they're
blame
locked.
Amazon.
I'm sorry?
I blame Amazon.
Yeah. And that very well could be.
And all of us who shop on Amazon, right?
Yeah, I share those same thoughts, Forrest. We think about the things that we're trying to bring into the city. We're trying to bring commercial. We want more open space. Like, thinking back to the general plan, when we were looking at those things that the community wanted, those were kind of top of mind. So I understand that we're getting the trade-off from revenue with the new property, but also it's going to impact like different areas of the community.
Yeah.
And I worry, like, if I want to go and like throw a ball with my dog, like in a little smaller pocket park, I would love to see, like, even if this huge piece, like if they could put aside like a little park for that community, that for me would be great.
Mm-hmm. Let me offer two other thoughts. Yeah, if you want to respond to that. When we did our last general plan update, we did not task our consultant to reanalyze what they thought based on all of the metrics, all the inputs. What is the highest and best use of these areas that already have a development agreement?
Right.
So in that general plan, all we did is mirrored what the agreement said. So, and again, as things change, maybe if we had had a more critical look, maybe you might have seen a general plan update that recommended thinking about doing something different. But because it was already in the MDA, we were just trying to mirror what was in the MDA. Yeah, and you said you wanted to.
I just wanted to hit on a couple of things. So we have Sandra here with Economic Development too, so she can help me out if she needs to. But as we meet with these economic development folks and figure out where they want to put in their shopping centers, gas stations are easy to put on corners anywhere you want, but the shopping centers are looking for traffic volumes and population centers. And so when you said it earlier, Forrest had said it earlier, that the Creek Ridge development, when it came in, was before Olympia. It was before 6400 West was contemplated to the north. So 6400 West was always considered to be this major corridor, but when Daybreak built, they built it really narrow and put houses fronting it. So it took this big corridor away from us where we had planned on putting some commercial. And then Olympia came in, and we rerouted U-111 and Harriman Boulevard. And so when that happened and we moved the intersection into Harriman, we actually increased the commercial area from 200,000 square feet required to 300,000 square feet required. And so we're laying out that area currently. And so the economic development side of it is we're kind of iterating where things go as development's happening. And now we're getting the roadway connections set. You're actually seeing some things come to fruition in other areas of the city. So that's the economic development side. That the economic development viability of this location has just kind of diminished over time. Yep. The park space, we do have a couple of parks in the area that'll service this. But one thing I wanted to bring up is with the 56-acre park, we were going to get 28 and a half across the streets. Now we're going to get 56, which across the street in the Teton Ranch was going to have no open space to the public. But north of the creek on that is part of a master plan park with the Teton Ranch development. And that's, I can't remember how many acres that is, but it's a larger piece that's going to have room to throw balls and run and stuff. So there's going to be a park with a bridge that crosses the creek right into that, right off of this 56-acre park, increasing it, I think, to 75, 80 acres total in the whole development. So there is going to be a component of that too to service more uses than, if this did turn into a soccer complex, more uses than just the organized soccer.
Have we seen any of the renditions for what South Jordan is going to do for that area? So they're continuing Daybreak, right? Is that fair to say?
That's what we've heard.
Okay.
They're working through agreements. We've met with some representatives, but South Jordan hasn't received plans for that area yet either. So
that's what I'm wondering is if there's going to be maybe other parks within that piece that could help with some of this.
It's
going to be mostly housing. So that's what I was told was mostly housing and some commercial, but it's going to be a high percent in the upper 90% of housing in that area.
On that park, I know we were talking to somebody about a multi-sports complex. Is that still like on the table if like some acreage of that could be used for like another sports facility besides soccer?
For which part?
Just where the park is.
This big regional park you're talking about?
Regional
The
park.
regional park?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
could be anything.
It's wide open what we could do with it. But yeah, the council will, if we're successful in achieving funds, the council will drive that vision for what it's supposed to be, or what it will
So
be.
it could be like the glitzy Bluffdale Park.
Yeah.
Could be that. It could be the new regional park that's over there in South Jordan as well, off 102nd South, right? The brand new one out that
Yeah,
way. There's options, lots of
I think,
options.
spectrum.
I think we're under, I don't want to say appreciating, because I don't appreciate it, but I think we're not valuing the fact that South Jordan annexation kind of knocked the wind out of the opportunity of what this area that we are under consideration could have been. I just think that really limited our options financially, especially, which I get we don't typically consider that, but that just really kicked a
Well, and I appreciate the
piece into
comments.
ourselves of what we do.
I appreciate the clarification Blake made as well as to what's happening in Olympia with 111, because you're right, without a good connection from a roadway, you're not going to get the commercial into some of these areas. But it sounds like the partners here want neighborhood commercial and things like that to support the neighborhood, but you're not going to get any major commercial hub in this location anyway.
You get a lower intensity commercial.
Yeah.
Not our big tax generators.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
more services in the neighborhood
Yeah.
and things like that.
As a result, I don't have as much consternation of the 5.1 because of that. Just item 5.1 in general. I don't have as much consternation with that because, again, it limits what we were able to do because of that South Jordan annexation. We're just moving the park option across the street. We wouldn't be able to even do the park option as we are because of that annexation. I mean, 5.1 is pretty much our only option outside of different densities, I guess, which that's been negotiated, right? So I don't see how there's a whole lot of other options outside of what's being recommended.
I also appreciate your concern about access to park space So what I heard from Commissioner Garcia is a direction to Commissioner Bradford, who's sitting on our Parks Master Plan. Find ways to have private, pocket parks, but it has to be private, obviously. Yeah, but that's a good idea.
Thank you. Good discussion.
Yeah.
No, this is, yeah.
I'll make a motion.
All right. I'll entertain that.
I'll recommend approval of item 5.1 with staff's one condition.
And then you want us to clarify item 4 here too, as well, Michael?
What's that?
No, it's
Yeah, that
okay.
right. It's
Just the
okay.
first
Okay,
condition. That was
perfect.
just-
All right, we got a motion by Brody?
Does he need to say anything
Do I
about
need
the
to say-
27 houses instead of?
No, that's what I just asked. He said we didn't.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we do want to state
Oh.
27 homes.
Excuse
Yeah,
me.
27
I-
homes in area A of the project,
Yeah.
down from 36.
Perfect. Thank you, Brody.
I'll second that.
And second by Jackson. So this is a recommendation for approval. We'll do a roll call vote for this. Brody?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Heather?
No.
Preston?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
And Andrea?
No.
Okay, that motion moves forward with a 4-2 positive recommendation to City Council. Okay, we'll move on to item 5.2, which is, this is the land use general plan amendment for this parcel as well. And before we get into any discussion, this is up for a public hearing, so we've had a lot of discussion, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the public hearing at this time.
Yeah.
So we'll continue the public hearing for item 5.2, which is a consideration for recommending a general future land use update for this one, general plan update. Yes, please. Go ahead and just state your name for the record, please.
You're all intimidating, that's what you are.
No, hopefully not. We're all friends here. We
Yeah,
appreciate you being here.
No, it's been a
Heather's
great
nice, I promise.
Yeah. It's been a great conversation, so I appreciate that. Bradley Stoll.
Bradley, thank you,
Just
Bradley.
a citizen, I live in, my husband and I, we live right on Ipswich Way, which our home would back up right to the park that's currently there. It wouldn't now because of the homes. Just 3 things I want to say. First of all, our Edge Homes representative did tell us, I mean, the reason we bought that lot, we moved from Salt Lake City out to Harriman to, quiet and peaceful. And we bought that lot because of that, because there would be a park, there'd be open space. And I understand that things always change. And but as somebody who's building their dream home, we thought, this is now not our dream home. It's a nightmare because of this whole thing. And maybe that's too strong of a word, but it just kind of feels that way to us. So that's been disappointing to us. The second thing, I think these 2 gentlemen, although their intentions are good, are being a little bit disingenuous and maybe a little bit misleading about that park across the street, the athletic complex, because Commissioner Henderson, in one of the meetings that we had here in this council room next door, he made specifically, he said, when we build this athletic complex, it is not open to the public. You cannot take your dog there and walk. You cannot do anything. It will be locked. It will be paid entrance only. He said, I don't know if anybody here realizes that, but that's what's going to happen. And that's the first we had heard about it. In all the council meetings, they had not said that. They had not said that at all, and we were shocked to hear that. So yeah, it won't be, we'll lose that open space behind us to an athletic complex that will be closed to paying public for soccer teams to come across the nation. And that is hanging by a thread. When you hear the council members talk about that, there's nothing guaranteed. In fact, there's hardly anything guaranteed with it. And they all have concerns about, there's really not anything guaranteed with that. So to your point, Forrest, is it? Yeah, our concern was, okay, so we do this whole swappy deal and everything, and my husband's a little more passionate than I, so he's going to get up and talk next. But we've seen stuff is happening behind our house. They're doing soil samples. They've come and they've smoothed it all out. I'm like, they're building homes. Here we go. I mean, they're starting. People are out there every day doing stuff. And I'm like, they're planning on something. And so our concern is, yeah, we do the swap. Homes be built. Then they realize this athletic complex was a joke to begin with. It's not going to happen. And now here we are with this big acreage of something. Let's build more homes, just like you talked about. And I think that's what's going to happen, and it's very disappointing. So I just want to say on behalf of me and so many people that didn't show up that have said so many things on our Facebook and our community there, that this is just an ill-thought-out plan, and I think that we strongly oppose it. and we hope that you strongly oppose it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Bradley.
Thank you.
Yep, more than welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ace Austria. As you know, I'm Bradley's spouse. Yes, I'm very against about the housing behind us, because just like it says, like out of nowhere, we just woke up and like, what is this rattling in the morning? Because I work at night sometimes, so I'm out asleep late. It woke me up and I hear this big tractors. They're starting to flatten things out. It's disappointing. So. And with their idea, they said they're gonna do a commercial complex or concessions above it. Why not do this? Commercial complex concession on the above, make it a park. What will we do? People will go to the commercial areas, buy food, do something. Where can they go? At the park. If you're gonna do a housing out there, there's no place for them to go. They're just gonna go buy and go. Nobody's staying. And also, having a park, there's a lot of things we can do. We can do like, community events that, can help just a couple of hours. And also part of it, if we're gonna do the, what do you call this, sports complex, my husband already specified it's gated, it's not for the public, it's private. And also, who is actually gonna be playing? They're planning 4 to 6 soccer field. Who is gonna play that much, people all at the same time? And also, think about the community around it. Soccer games, professional or not, just, small leagues, usually they get it held at around afternoon to evening. It's nighttime, lights are on, very noisy. What would you expect around the community? Like, they would be upset about it. It's like, noise complaint, people, like you said, parking, and so. It's kind of, and also if you felt like it's overpromised and never been delivered. And it's kind of sad that as for us coming from downtown, we specifically chose Harriman City because we were told, and upon the research, it's the best place to move in. It's a growing community. But if this is what we're expecting, it's kind of really disappointing for us. So what's gonna happen? I have friends in Salt Lake City. They actually want to move here. What would I say? Oh, people from Harriman City, the people who's actually taking care of us, really don't care. They will listen, they will not acknowledge. That's all. It just comes from the right ear, yeah. And that's just for me. I'm just really, really disappointed of choosing this place. We could have chosen a different place to move, to live and build our forever home. But yeah, it's just disappointing.
Thank you, Ace. We appreciate the comments. Seeing no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I have a motion by Heather.
Second.
Second by Preston. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I think where I want to go, Blake, if you want to come forward and just maybe address some of the comments, a couple things I heard about, private park, that may be the complex, maybe what's happening now. It sounds like there's construction going on, so I don't know. Maybe help answer some of these questions as well for us.
So in regard to the construction, in preparation of property exchanges and just trying to figure out what's there, they've been doing some sampling to verify if there's existence of contaminated soils on site and some geotechnical analysis to see what type of soil, bearing pressure and things that are there. So that work has been going on, and that would have went on whether there was a park or whether there was housing, whatever, that work was going to have to happen. Okay. In regard to, what was the other?
The privatization of this regional
Privatization,
park.
yes, that's right.
What's the?
That was a good point. I do remember that city council meeting that was brought up or that public meeting or it was a council meeting was brought up. And for right now, we're not sure what it would be. Like I was saying earlier, this gives us the opportunity to obtain funds to do something there. The council could change by the time those funds come in, and the council could choose to do a 60-acre dog park, I don't know, you know, but, you know,
Not asking for that.
they could keep things open. There is the Teton Ranch Park to the north that'll be constructed in conjunction with this, so that would be open to the public and available. If the council did choose to put in a sports complex and lock things up, I'm not sure how that would all happen. There should be, I think we have a process for parks that have to come in and go through a public hearing process again, and I think that goes with the council to get approved. But yeah, that was one voice from one council member of the 5 of them. So that is something to be considering if that did happen.
Was that his opinion or was that his goal?
I don't
No,
know.
I'm just curious. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just.
I don't know if you can answer that.
Yeah, maybe you can. Yeah, that's his.
I think it was
his-
stating a possible scenario.
Okay. Yeah, because I guess I hadn't heard that in all these discussions, that was even a consideration.
I think
of potential.
our experience
Or
touring
potential.
facilities similar to that. If you go to cities where they have large facilities like that, they do keep them locked up a lot of the time because of the cost for the turf and the things that are inside of the facility.
Interesting.
So yeah, if that type of facility was built, there's a good possibility that portions, if not all of it, would be locked up at times.
Is the funding guaranteed?
No.
No, they don't even have, they haven't even pursued.
It would
funding.
be-
Yeah, there's
It's
nothing.
just not a
Eligible.
possibility now, and with the acreage, it is a
Be
possibility.
eligible for, I assume, ZAP taxes at that point.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's where you have to apply and get selected. And there's some other funding opportunities that are out there that we're also looking at. Most likely, this facility would be constructed in multiple phases. So you'd see probably several phases that would occur over years of time. So it's possible. It could take years to develop half of it. So.
Let me ask one. So I remember seeing some, even pre-Olympia, there was always a plan for a regional park in this area. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, there always was a plan for this. It was kind of what we spoke about earlier. The 28 and a half acres here, we were trying to combine with stuff further west to make a regional park. South Jordan's annexation voided that plan. And so looking for other areas, Olympia starts to get more slope as you go out west. And we wanted something that was a little more centrally located to our population. Olympia is out a little bit further west. And so this opportunity came up, and this land where the regional complex is planned is fairly flat, has utilities, roadways, and access to the creek. It has access from collectors and arterials on the east and west side, and then pedestrian access along the creek.
So maybe if we go back in history, the regional park, was that a concept before the original MDA for the park that would have been or could be at this location? Does that make sense?
Yeah, was it before this MDA was even put together? Was there
Our
a
Parks
plan?
Master Plan was kind of general, so it just said this area. I don't think it had a dot in a certain spot, so we'd always just kind of targeted this area for a regional park.
So when the original Creek MDA came up, it was like, oh, we could use this as part of that.
That's correct.
Tie that in, okay.
Mm-hmm. Were there any other?
Yeah, any other questions for Blake?
So,
yeah.
And this is always looking backwards, but for the regional park that we assume was going to be above Olympia, was that, when they described it during Olympia's whole presentation, they described it as an open public park. It wasn't described as a sports complex that was privatized, closed, locked. So my question is can we have clarification, as this kind of moves forward with the city council? Can we stop saying it's a regional park and either say it is either a regional park or it is a sports complex?
I think that'd be a great thing to put in your motion to clarify, because I think staff would also like to clarify that it's it's not guaranteed a sports complex.
Right,
Sports
right.
complex, it's just open space right now.
Exactly, and I guess that's my point, is like, we're taking open space from all these MDAs to create either a nice open space, regional park, or we're creating a privatized.
Yeah, it's
closed
not
And
a
that,
park.
that could be a part of our motion on this particular item here.
It's just a recommendation, so.
It's a recommendation, but to
That's what I'm
definitely.
asking, is
Yeah.
if we can like
Absolutely.
suggest something like that.
Absolutely.
Or get clarification, or
Yeah.
say,
Or we recommend a certain acreage is public, right?
But remains
That's
open
a
to the public,
Yeah, because it's
right,
like, if we take the whole thing and privatize it, it's like, that's not a
Well,
regional
but I
park.
think like, there's a couple of things here, sorry. So there's 56 some odd acres that you're looking at for this other, but you mentioned there is still a 25 acre that's on the north side of Midas Creek that would be not tied to this regional park or whatever, right? So you'd
that's
still
just a-
have a 50% portion of that that's
park.
open to.
City Park north of Midas.
City Park and then a regional
Regional
park
park
on the
south
south
of
side.
Midas.
And our
Okay.
Assistant City Manager Wendy's online, and I think she might have some additional input on this.
Ah, Wendy.
Yes.
You've, been-
Hey, everybody. Sorry, I'm in my beautiful Holiday Inn suite here in St. George before the Utah League of Cities and Towns meeting. And I just want to clarify the situation because we have two regional parks that we're talking about when it comes to Olympia. One is the Trailhead situation that's out west. That is a regional park. And then we have what we're considering adding as a regional park in Harriman. So I don't want to confuse the two. So I want to make sure we're clear on the Trailhead and the regional park that's out at Butterfield Canyon and the Southwest Trails that's happening in the Trailhead that is in Harriman City, which is a regional park.
okay.
And the proposed athletic complex, which is in Harriman City and a completely different project. So I don't want to confuse the two. I want to make sure we're clear on what we're talking about.
Boris, is that?
yeah, no, I think that we are pretty clear on, we're not talking about the trailheads on the west. We were talking about, when we say the regional park previous to Olympia Hills, that it was the part that has been annexed currently into South Jordan. They had said there was going to be a large regional park there above Olympia Hills. And so that's the one we were referencing, not the one out west where the trailheads are. And yeah, we definitely understand that this one is.
Okay, I just want to make
across the
sure
street.
that Olympia was never part of that
Yes.
regional park.
Right, that's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And Olympia has their own requirements for their own parks and open space, right? Obviously.
Yes,
So
correct.
we'll just.
Right, which we just changed.
Which is
last-
independent of, well, yeah, there was a change, recommended change because of the regional. There was, absolutely, that was a part of the discussion 2 weeks ago. That's correct. Any other questions for city staff here? Okay.
I'd
Michael,
just
do you
like
have-
to add another
Yeah.
thought. I think part of the maybe struggle or kind of just consideration is you can envision multiple land use types that may be appropriate for this property, for this location, right? It's not like there's one that is absolutely the right answer and everything else is wrong. You know, this is, again, just a proposal that seems to be consistent with some of the larger objectives that the city has tried to express in the past. In fact, in your staff reports, I quoted from the city council's strategic plan, and I put in some of those objectives from their adopted strategic plan that emphasized the development of commercial, sports, franchises, opportunities. There was another one that talked about just trying to be economically sensitive. We were really concerned about our city dollars and how do we spend them, and we want to make sure we're spending them in the best places and getting the most return. And I mean, economics and an opportunity to do these more creative development. So it was interesting to me as I was putting together these reports, recognizing, being sympathetic to some of the real genuine concerns that we heard expressed through the community meetings. But it was pretty consistent with that strategic plan. So, you know, does this community really want to attract more athletic events, more sports, more I've heard some of our community, members of our community saying, yeah, we like that idea of branding our city that way and encouraging more of that. And that seems to be, again, in this strategic plan. Maybe your recommendation is that we don't think so, but I thought it was interesting that this is actually a reflection, I think, of a stated objective that the council had specifically adopted and discussed. So
I like that. I think where I am is like, so we're taking away what was going to be a fairly large park, and if we take the new parcel and it's all privatized, then we're losing that piece of it. I don't know. I just maybe feel like a portion of the new piece should be public.
Contained as public.
Yeah, just a piece of it, not the whole thing. I'm not saying like, hey, the whole piece needs to be privatized and locked up, but it's for the people that are right there. It's like, okay, they thought that there was going to be a massive park right there, and kind of like a swap is like, well, are we going to get any park, or is it all going to be privatized and that amenity goes away?
the vision of the athletic complex obviously was like the early concept. And you've seen in the reports, it's now been saying potential, proposed, conceptual.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are a lot of hurdles, there are a lot of what ifs. The opportunity is, do we want to at least preserve the ability to pursue that potentially? How much of it would be, if it was an athletic complex, how much of it would be restricted and gated versus open to the public? I don't know. I don't know that anybody knows. It was a concept. It may, and again, it seems to be consistent with some of these larger visions.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sure we've all have seen these athletic complexes and what they bring, what they attract to the city.
Yeah.
Again, you know, maybe you're saying that's the wrong vision for the city, but I'm just telling you that seems to be what we've been saying as a city in these other documents.
I mean,
and it's not surprising to see, you know, this being put together with that idea.
I mean, if this had been combined with the South Jordan land, like that was the original plan, there's no telling that that same parcel wouldn't have been the exact same kind of a complex gated off. People can say they bought it with the hope of a park being in their backyard, and it could have been that same thing in their backyard. I mean, we just don't know. It was undeveloped land. We didn't know what it was going to be. We still don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah. I get that.
As far as updating the plan, and if it moves across the street, then
right,
that's kind of working with current conditions.
Yeah, I think that when you take a step back from a macro perspective and think, wait, conceptually, this parcel of land with what we had originally thought was going to be, it doesn't make sense there. We think across the street is going to make more sense. We don't know what across the street's going to be yet. We can't say what it's going to be yet because there's no way to know. But from again, when we go back to that South Jordan annexation, it made this parcel of land just incongruent with what we had thought it could have been. And so to make it congruent again, it's being moved across the street.
Yeah, I just feel like if we made a recommendation that a portion of the potentially regional park is public, then
we can throw that in the motion. It's something that the city will hear, but it's I mean really the motion is the general plan amendment for this.
That's
I mean,
true.
I would hope they're listening to this conversation and or at least get the recording of it. But if we want to, at least as a part of the motion, that, you know, we're recommending whether it's approval or denial, either way, whatever. But whatever they consider, that they take into consideration that a portion or all or whatever. We can do whatever we want with our motion, I guess is my point. Correct, Michael?
I would say that you at least make a recommendation to be more specific with your terminologies here.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, especially when a councilman says something, you kind of take that at its face value and say, yeah, okay, well, he knows what he's talking about, so.
I mean, it makes sense, though, the way we're managing our parks now, we do charge teams to play and reserve the parks, right? So I get that, and thinking back to when Mayor Palmer was actually on the Planning Commission, this was something that we have been talking about for a long time, is I'm a sports mom, and so I have kids that I have to drive out of the city to play sports. So this is something that we need, but how do we balance taking this away from the neighborhoods and also creating that amazing sports complex that we do need?
Yeah,
And this
I
is
think
the
that's where
one-
I think that's what my struggle is same thing, do baseball, other sports with my kids, and it's just taking
Yeah.
what could be open space for those activities and being like, oh, nope, it's only for the elite that can access this place.
Yeah.
That's what's hard.
And I think that all of us can agree that a type of complex like this is the goal of Harriman City and is a great
Yeah,
thing.
sports destination.
That's right, it is a great thing. No one is saying it's not a great thing.
Right.
What we're saying is how we go about getting that. Do we take away from the MDAs and the neighborhoods, take away the open spaces they had been promised to accomplish that goal? I think that's just the concern that I have.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with what Heather and Forrest have said and the residents that came. I think that having open space that's walkable from your home is so important. And so to remove that's very hard for me to vote for.
Yeah, like I just wouldn't want my kid crossing that street, you know, to get there.
I don't know, for me, I feel like, if I made a recommendation that I would recommend that a portion of this property be considered for public open space and not the whole thing privatized. Just so they,
The new park, right?
yeah, the new park, a portion of it. I'm not saying how much acreage, but that it's
That does
usable.
Make me think of one, maybe a quick question for Blake. As with the Trails Park, so we've got the Minas Creek Trail. Will it go under the road, or do you have to cross the road?
Exactly what we were just talking about. So we were just funded from the county for the bridge on 6400 West, and so we're designing that right now. That's going to have a trail connection that goes underneath, just like Main Street and all the way up. And then 6000 West currently does go under, so that trail goes under the road. Our anticipation is to continue this trail through Olympia to the Butterfield Park trailhead, and the plans that we are looking at right now have tunnels and bridges, so you never have to cross a road on that trail.
A major
all the way-
arterial, it might be
all
a
the way
little
from
local
Harriman
road,
High
but-
School out to Butterfield Canyon. So-
You'd hop on your scooter, get on the Midas Creek Trail and
Yeah,
go
that's great.
make it to
Makes
the
a
park
change.
safely.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's good.
So,
Okay.
yeah, it's kind of a great overall master plan. We actually met with Kennecott to talk about their trail plan. That's when we learned they didn't have any plans in yet that were official, but we're trying to tie our trail plan so it ties in with their trails as well to get people through. So that was kind of a big selling point for this regional park area, is accessible by multi-modes. And you can bike on the trail, you can bike on the road, you can drive, you can walk on the sidewalk, you can walk on the trail. So
you can walk your dog down the trail over to, okay.
And there'd be just real quick clarification, because you mentioned that the regional park's on the south and the city park's on the north. There would be a connection other than 6400 West connecting those two pieces? Those two, a bridge of some sort over Midas Creek, is that the
That's
plan?
a footbridge.
A footbridge.
A footbridge over Midas Creek, yes. That's
For- to connect those two parks as well. So it wouldn't be tied to 6400 West, it would be a.
It'd be
okay.
in the middle,
Right.
between 64th and 60th.
Because they could still use 64th, of course, if they would need to.
And there's a trail
but-
up both
but-
sides, so you can
yeah.
cross
Okay.
at the streets, or you can cross on the bridge if you're already
Okay.
on the south side. So,
Gotcha.
yep.
Yeah, because 6,064, that's the boundary of the regional park, and so you'd have those two, obviously, but then halfway in there, you'd have a footbridge. that-
Pedestrian access
Gotcha.
across, yep.
Okay. Okay, so this is, again, item 5.2 on the general plan amendment recommendation.
Is there any
And I-
city recommendations, or is it just?
Nope, no, that's what it is. We're changing, the recommendation is to go from a parks and plazas to neighborhood residential 2 is the item before us tonight. So we
I
can make
think
a
I'm ready.
motion to recommend approval or denial.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll make a recommendation for approval with the staff's one recommendation.
Okay, so we have a motion to recommend approval to city council, the general plan amendment as stated.
Do we want to add any of our own.
Do you have any other clarification? I mean, he can leave it at that. That can be his motion, but do you want to add any other clarifications to it?
Like that a portion be considered public, or?
I mean, but you don't
Up
have
to
to.
him.
Well, I'm kind of thinking that north park will always be a city park. And that's
It will
always
be.
gonna be.
Yeah, so you can leave the motion as stated.
And that's 25 acres that are open across, just across Midas, so.
Yeah, however you want to do
Or
it.
it's not
I
25.
think 25 is a little generous. There's the creek.
Right.
And then the park, so it's less than that.
Well, I think it was
It's
one
probably
soccer
closer to
field.
like 7 or 8. It's not 25.
Oh, the park itself, and
Yeah.
then, okay.
Okay.
I got looking at that and I was like, oh, I think we're a little over on that. So just looking at the map, it was quite a bit smaller. So
Well,
I
I
think with
remember
the
clear
creek and
back
that
when
park,
we-
it's like seven-ish
Yeah,
acres.
clear back when we approved it, I think they said they couldn't quite fit a soccer field on it, if
I think
That
you
was
couldn't
years-
fit a
couple
full
years ago.
size with the shape
Oh,
and how
yeah.
big it was, because it's triangular.
It's triangular.
So the 7 acres is just the triangular piece and not the open space?
And the creek space.
And the creek space. I wanted to just make sure that was clear.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a bit smaller.
So let me modify my
I wanted to
motion.
clarify.
Okay. No, by all means, we'll restate this motion. Go ahead.
So let me figure out how to say this here. So I make a motion to recommend approval with 1, staff's recommendation, and 2, that a portion of the park remain public and open to the public.
The new park.
The sports complex.
Yep.
The land that we're trading for.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion by Jackson and a second by Brody.
Say item 5.2 in your.
Oh, then that is approval of item 5.2.
Thank you, Angela. Anything else, you're good with that now?
I'll second.
And that doesn't change Brody's second. So we'll do a roll call vote for this item. Brody?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Heather?
No.
Preston?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
Andrea?
No.
Okay. That motion moves forward with a 4-2 vote for recommended approval to the City Council with the additional recommendation. So with that, we will move on to item 5.3, which is now the, thank you, this is the new Creek Ridge easy for me to say, long night, Creek Ridge Cove Master Development Agreement. And again, we've had the presentation by city staff, so at this time, I'm going to go ahead and continue the public hearing at this point. So open this up if there's any additional comments that would like to be made regarding this. Yes, Bradley, please. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you, and the great discussion and great, I appreciate the feedback. So we're 0-1, that's all right. That's all right for today, so we'll try to.
No,
get
it's, by the way, just clarify, right, this is going to city council. Final will be next week at city council,
Yeah,
so.
and we'll be there just to let you know. Hopefully
Okay.
more people will be there that have voiced their concerns. But on this one specifically, when you look at this parcel, again, bet you can't see it because of the timer, but we're on that one side. They said that, I mean, obviously they had the easeways or the easements in there so we could get to the park from our property, and now we're just getting to more homes there. Yeah, so we're in the third one from the right. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we're the third from the right. So, like, our whole idea, again, in purchasing this property was because of this park. And so now, if it all was to go forward with residential areas here, I think a good opportunity right now as we're talking about this is to kind of implement what some people have said here and said, instead of, because again, the city council has not ever talked about a regional park. At every single thing we've been to, it's an athletic complex with 16 soccer fields. That's what it is. They have never said regional park in any of their meetings. These gentlemen have never said regional park in any of the meetings. It has always been an athletic sports complex that will be private. And they can correct me if I'm mistaken, but that it has been that way every single meeting that we have been to. So that's going to be private if it goes forward. So is there any possibility then, if that goes forward, that instead of 136 more homes behind us, put a buffer there? Put like from that second road in, take all those homes away, put a park for that property there and our property here. And then you do have a nice little park area there that both places can enjoy. And then the sports complex for all the sports people can go forward and everybody's happy. Then all of a sudden you have a sports complex over there that, and again, I just don't believe it because it's going to be just fake turf and The idea is that people from across the U.S. will just come here in a cold environment instead of Vegas. I don't buy that, because I've talked to too many sports people who said, we wouldn't go out and play soccer in the cold. I mean, it just doesn't, it's not gonna happen. So, but they could have that. And then there's still a park behind us there and behind this other one. And then you have 2 subdivisions with homeowners who aren't upset at the Harriman City Council or anybody in Harriman saying, they listened to our concerns, they made this amendment, and now we have a park between both of these. You have easements into it and happy people all the way around. So again, there's plenty of time. There's no rush on this. Let's talk about that. Let's go back to the drawing board, take away 136 homes and put less there and put a park in between both of our properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Bradley. Ace, you want to make any additional comments? You're more than welcome. We appreciate you being here. We want to hear from everybody.
So, yeah, for me, like again, we're from Salt Lake City. We're just regular people who works hard to attain something, and we have dreams and goals, right? Having the house that we have right now, we're very fortunate to have that. I have a lot of colleagues who've been working so hard to attain such things. So, you know, we paid a lot of money on just specifically on that strip because there's a premium price. We made a lot of sacrifices just to get that. And when they told us we're not gonna get the park, the disappointment feeling that I have, or even if you guys are gonna be on my shoes, you guys are starting to make a family, or now you guys are comfortable to build forever homes. You were promised, not totally promised, you were told, but somehow sound like a promise that it's gonna be a park. You guys have a good view. You're gonna be open space. Least thing you know, in a snap, oh no, we're just joking. You know, it's just a thought just to make you buy something. Even Edge Homes admitted that they were told by the city it's gonna be a park. Even the city mentioned, they did admit, we told Edge Homes it's gonna be a park. What's happening right now? Part of it, it's just, you know, half of the community already been, you know, the park has been stolen from them because we gave it to whatever private who owns that land. They were hoping at least the half of it will be ours, just to have like that park that it was promised. Because we, like Bradley mentioned, we do have a ton of people who are just starting a family in our community. They have kids. Some of them actually said, like exactly, they said, nobody's gonna go here to play soccer because it's cold. If it's just from outside Utah, you know what I mean? So it's just, I hope that whoever's actually working with us, you know, I thought their goal is to make the people happy, the ones who actually, you know, put them on those spot and position to improve our community. I just hope they can actually, like again, I mentioned a while ago, I hope we are being acknowledged and really heard and seen, not just because of what, I don't know where the study's coming from, that they said, oh, it's a good idea. I'm like, did you guys do a feasibility study? I have a bachelor degree of hospitality, understanding the situation, just kind of applying it. Okay, I felt, and they even said that there's gonna be a hotel and there's gonna be 91%. 91% occupancy on what month, on what season? I'm guaranteeing 70% of the year, nobody's staying in this place because what are we selling? What are they gonna come for? Yeah.
Thank you, Ace. Okay, seeing no further comments, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I have a motion by Heather.
I'll second.
Second by Preston, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, this particular item, actually, the applicant for this one, and maybe that's where you're gonna get to, Michael, so yeah, maybe I should have given Ryan an opportunity before I did the public hearing. I realized that after, but nonetheless, Ryan, I'd welcome any of your comments to come forward, talk about, I mean, you've heard the discussion tonight, and feel free, please provide any additional thoughts, and we may have a few questions for you as well.
Okay, no problem. Ryan Button. One question that came up earlier, I can't remember who asked it, it was about lot sizes. So there's, they're 50-foot and 60-foot wide lots. The depths vary, obviously, because you got a creek and some different things going on there. But you'll notice that the lots, we made the lots adjacent to the existing homes wider than what's there. So there's fewer homes. Trying to be sensitive to that, we located the larger lots next to the existing homes rather than the smaller lots. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any other questions. I think it's been pretty thoroughly discussed, so.
Any questions for Ryan?
Yeah, I got a question.
Go ahead, Preston, we'll let
Okay.
Preston start. No, come to you, Brody.
So I had mentioned the southwest corner where you've got the trail connections. And I understand the negotiation's been extremely intense as far as number of units. So you've got 11 units lining the back of homes, and those homes had originally thought they'd be getting open space behind them from the developer. I'm not saying that was your fault.
Right.
But I am saying that that is a condition that's happened. What would it take, as far as the negotiation standpoint, to turn that also into additional trail system with maybe even like a little pocket park, like a little tot lot or something for the HOA, I don't know, something like that over here on the
east.
Yeah, the east trailway connection, and then just a little trailway to connect into the trailway. So that is green space behind those homes, some sort of a concession.
So I wish I had a way to point at the screen.
Yeah.
But in the bottom left, okay, who's running the mouse? Okay.
Yeah.
So go to the left, like the bottom left, okay, right there. That whole white piece that kind of looks like Oklahoma.
Yes.
Turn your head sideways. That will still be retained by the city.
Right.
So, and then all of that white space as you, at the top of the screen, not all of that's in Midas Creek. There is property adjacent there that the city will be retaining as open space. That won't be coming to us.
Yeah.
So there is a drainage channel that's been constructed through here, kind of where the mouse is pointed, but there is some additional space there the city will own and will be public open space, and what they choose to do in that, again, that's not incorporated in my subdivision.
Right.
That would be something that the city, that doesn't even come to me. I'm not getting it and then giving it back or whatnot. So, so certainly there can be a conversation with the city about doing something there. We did look at possibly putting a trail or something across the backs of these lots, but they become an area for bad things to happen. It's too long of a corridor.
That's why I'm saying open to the street. Just you eliminate those 11 lots. I know that also the discussion was very intense as far as multifamily units or townhome type things. Like frankly, moving those 11 units into townhomes along 64th so that you still even get the same number of units, but then making that a trail connection of those 11 units lining the back of the current homes, just to me is the concession that would make so much sense to people that thought they were getting green space behind their homes.
Yeah, to your point, there were a lot of negotiations going on, and one thing that was made very clear from the very beginning was that this was going to be nothing but single-family homes.
Right.
That there were promises made and commitments made when the Creek Ridge development came through that everything south of Midas Creek would be single-family, and those were kind of promises made to the residents 10 years ago. Again,
Same
had
promises
nothing to
that
do
they'd
with
get the
me.
park back there.
Well, again, I understand,
Right.
but
That can be,
right.
That can be a part of our discussion and motion or whatever.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah, by all means. So let's focus on questions and
makes
not,
sense.
to
So to
Ryan
your
and-
point or your question about values and whatnot, obviously, this is just what we've been able to negotiate. This is one piece of a huge puzzle. You guys saw a bunch of the other puzzle pieces a couple of weeks ago. So this is kind of the final one, the least dense one. And I think it's a great fit considering. I understand it's disappointing. Surely not just for these guys, but for others. There's obviously multiple homeowners here that thought it would be open space or hoped that it would be at least. Obviously Edge wasn't the one ever constructing that, so I'm sure they represented what was on the general plan and obviously there's a little bit of an evolution being considered here. The good news is it is literally across an 80-foot right-of-way, so it's not like moving crazy far, but it's not in your backyard, which I can appreciate. So I do think the trail connections, you know, we've connected to those. Well, we're connecting to one of them. The other one obviously ties into an existing trail corridor that's already there. These trails will connect all up through Olympia. And I do think in the big picture, if you look at everything that is coming of this, I would have loved to put townhomes there. I did have that on my very first draft, I can assure you. And I think there would have been a lot more flexibility if we could have clustered some units. But yeah, we even looked at really small single-family lots, more like 4,000, and then determined that wasn't in the best interest of existing neighbors. And so we really have done, just like, I don't think you were here a couple weeks ago, Preston, but on the Walker property or
I
Sorrento.
listened and I heard it all, yeah.
Okay, but you know, we widened out lots. We've tried to be a good neighbor wherever possible and try and make good out of what, you know, for some people is definitely a challenging situation. I think the great news is that the city will have the opportunity to develop 56 acres in open space, which is more than what we're losing here. Again, what this subdivision sits on is only 24, 25 acres. They're getting like 35 from land reserve area. So all that other space, granted, it is still open space. You aren't losing any of that. And you're giving up a public works yard that was never going to be open space. Or plan, you know what I mean? So I think the nice thing is the city's.
You gotta kind of look at the whole picture
Yeah.
of this, of what's going on. It is unfortunate the way this one is for some individuals, obviously.
I guess my question for you is if just those 6,400 were townhomes, let's say, not saying that is even close to an option, but if those were, would those 11 be an option to turn to the trail system instead?
You need to answer right now.
Just out of curiosity. I know the number. You're like, I'd have to run numbers. I have no idea. Just out of curiosity.
A door is not equal to a door. So giving
Gotcha.
up a single family lot and getting a townhome is not equal.
It's not
in
going to be
value.
equal.
Not even close. So, I mean,
That's a good enough explanation. Yeah.
and the reality is how great is a 100-foot deep strip of land? Really, what can you do with that? I mean, yeah, it's a buffer, or I could push the road right against that.
Yeah.
If I were living adjacent to this, I would rather have single-family lot, have a backyard and a single-family home next to me than putting a road, right? Like we could have, I guess, laid it out a little differently. It wouldn't have really worked, but I could have put a road right next to them as a buffer. But would you want to live next to a road and have a double-fronted lot? That'd be terrible, I think. The tires slapping on there and just headlights and everything else. So I think all things considered, this is a pretty nice. It's not as good as a park. I will give you that. It's not that. It's not.
Yeah.
But again, this is just kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of stuck that way.
Well, and I think to your point, I mean, you see all the white space. It's like, okay, you know, the city can still turn that into something that's usable for the public. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I just creaked through there. But this section coming off from the trail and stuff like that, that's fairly open, flat, could be.
Up at the north, there is stuff that's not inside the drainage. Yeah.
Okay, so there is still some flat space up in that area. But then again, the connection going to your southwest corner of the property, that's all nice and flat. They could landscape that, make it a little that Oklahoma shape piece.
I don't know. I mean, there is a drainage ditch that runs through there, but there is stuff that's outside of it. It's not a huge area, but yes, there is some, it's not big.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Ryan, thank you. So again, this is for the Creek Ridge Cove MDA discussion. So we've seen the MDA, the proposed MDA, the proposed plan here. That is what is up for discussion and.
Yeah, I mean, I made my opinion pretty clear there that I think that it's funny that we want to stick to some promises, but not others. I mean, these people that were lining right there had promises of green space behind them. I think it's fairly workable with additional negotiation to get that, at least a little bit of a trail connection right there for those 11 home sites, but that's my personal opinion on that.
And it's sizable. If you're going to put,
It
like,
is
as was
sizable.
mentioned, right, you're saying eliminate those homes.
I'm saying
Would be
eliminate those
your
11
thoughts.
home sites right along.
Not just a narrow trail, it would
No.
be kind of a meandering, kind of
Correct.
green space.
Correct.
Kind of, that would be your.
That would be
your-
my
your
ideal,
thoughts.
because I feel like that's the fair trade-off, but I understand negotiations that were had to get to those numbers, it would throw those off.
Well, that, again, it's a recommendation, and we could put that in the motion. If that's-
For me, I just don't
that's a
feel that's
thought.
usable.
I worry an alleyway would be where nefarious things happen.
I don't think so if it was open. I think the nefarious is, I have trails near my home site that are literally wall on wall with just a trail, right? And frankly, not a lot of, I mean, do kids jump into the vinyl fencing along there? Yeah, kids are dumb. But, but if it's open to the street and it's just tree lined with trails next to a bunch of homes, as far as being the, I mean, that's the same as any sidewalk, frankly. I mean, you could literally make the sidewalk run into this little bit of the trail connection. It's just a sidewalk. That's what I'm saying.
So I guess I have a question for you. The cul-de-sac that's to the left, where it's like there's no homes on one side of it, is that grading?
No, that's where the drainage is running through there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if you could swap it so it's more usable, but that makes sense.
Well, then the trail wouldn't
Yeah.
quite reach by this either.
Water doesn't flow up, uphill.
I have a question for the city. Maybe they have an answer to this. And has it been taken into consideration if this does become a athletic center, and I'm assuming it's probably soccer, has it been taken into consideration that it'll be competing with the Salt Lake Academy rail that we have in Harriman already?
I think the anticipation is that it would be
Complementary.
Would it be
complementing
complement-
it.
would they be working together?
In
Is
the,
that-
in the studies that, I think there was the Victus study that was done that the council commissioned to look at hotel rooms and economic development boon from this. It worked in conjunction with that. You could get more people. The anticipation, so there's the RAC that's to the north in Salt Lake City that has a big complex like this. They could all work together and you could pull in more teams. You could have
a
big
much
national
larger kind of
tournaments.
tournament atmosphere where you can
And then your
use-
championship game could be at RSL. That's like the crowning thing. So
Yeah,
that was the anticipation, is if you did something like that, it would be more of a complement and less of a compete.
Okay.
Hey, Blake, real quick, what's the white space directly west of 6400 West and south of this red hatch? There's that area there.
That one?
What is planned for that area?
That is
Remind me.
That is owned by the corporation of the presiding bishopric of the LDS Church.
Okay, no plans or anything like that? It's zoned residential?
It was held
or-
out per the original MDA for a church.
Gotcha. Okay,
But we
so it's
haven't
large.
received any applications for it, so it could be developed, but they're out of units in their Area B. So it would either go commercial or a church.
Become a church. Okay, okay. I just want to make sure what the plan was for that parcel, if that was a park area too. So, okay, thank you.
It could go to that too.
It could, yeah, okay.
Hey, for the regional complex, I hear Ryan Smith's giving out $500,000 for ice rinks. I mean,
Let's put it nice.
$500,000 for $20 million ice rinks.
Yeah. I'm sure we'd love to have an ice
Come
rink.
up with the other 19 and a half, we'll have one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Any other questions for Blake? All right, thank you. Discussions. I mean, Preston brought up Interesting thought there. Any other ideas or potential conditions of recommendation that we could?
I don't know, for me, it just really depends on what that 50 acres is gonna be, if it's all privatized. I feel like that's a loss for the community, depending on like what the density is in like usable park for sports. But we do have the other 7 acres, but that's not even big enough for a soccer, so I don't know. It's tricky because I look at like where we strategically have parks for the number of people. What do we have like around this area to service all these homes?
Right, we're adding more people and taking away that specific space.
I just wanted to remind you again that this is for the Creek Ridge Cove MDA, so any conditions or modifications are specific to the proposed MDA, right? If you're trying to
I think our voices.
offer a comment on what happens across the street, that might be fine, but it can't be a condition of this MDA.
Correct, and
right?
we had that as a part of item 5.2. We did make that known, our thoughts on that one.
I mean, so for this one, it's like.
So yeah, thank you, Maya, that's a very good point. This is on the MDA, and again, a comment like Preston had made, a concession or a consideration for some additional open space along those to provide that buffer. That could be a part of a recommendation.
Or a pocket park even.
Whatever that may be.
You could put you could put a little tot lot in that green space. You could do it just along with the trails. There's room to play catch. It's a real connection to the trails instead of just walking from one side of the neighborhood to the other. Like, it just makes a lot more sense in my mind.
Okay, so I don't know if there's any more discussion. I almost
The
am
hard
hearing
part-
a
the hard part
motion,
with the
but yeah,
pocket
go ahead.
park is who owns it and who maintains it.
Right. I would
It
prefer
would all
that to be HOA if they put a pocket park in there, but if you're just gonna do the trail, maintaining the trail
If it's
connects with the rest of
HOA,
it, so be
If
it.
it's HOA, then it's only a part of Creek Ridge
Correct.
Cove use as well.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, in theory.
Is there a slide with the recommendations?
There you go.
Especially given that those homeowners along that line of those 11 lots did pay more for green space behind their homes. I mean, it's not our full responsibility to
Yeah, because the park wasn't
own
there.
yeah, the park wasn't there, and just because a private developer promised something doesn't mean we have to follow through with that, but at the same time, we, at one point, were saying that would be a city park. So to pull the rug out completely on what we had said or what we had thought was going to go there, I mean, I feel like that is just such an,
Well,
I don't know if I would call it a simple concession, but it's a concession that we should have at least considered.
Well, I mean, you could put a recommendation to the city council that
Yes.
they add a trail there.
Yeah, if I make the recommendation, that's what I would do.
I think we need to be clear, because I don't want just a trail.
Yeah.
Right, you gotta make it worthwhile so you don't have nefarious acts going on in that area, right?
Just
You
like
want
a
it-
double vinyl sided.
No, you don't
fence
want
with a
that. I mean,
yeah.
you leave maybe you leave the street as it is and you just open it all up to the
That's what I'm
street.
saying,
and-
is just leave it open.
Yeah.
But
But
then to
anyhow.
the developer, I know a number of single-family lots, if you get the same
Well,
number
that's
of
just
lots.
it.
If you get the same number of lots, they're gonna have to reduce the size of the lots to get the same number.
Right.
That's outside our purview. They can go through and,
They
I
can
mean, we
figure
can,
it out.
continue negotiations as needed.
Yeah.
I mean, we make a recommendation and again, they can take our recommendation or not. It's really
Yeah.
up to them.
Yep.
But,
I mean, I think
But we can-
I think they have a better idea of all the negotiations of the other parcels too.
Yeah.
absolutely. But I think they should be hearing our concerns, I'm sure. But we can definitely put that in a recommendation.
Preston, what are your thoughts about the, yeah, I mean, the recommendation you're thinking is remove
Did we get
those.
everybody out? Daryl and Andrea, I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to weigh in on
I've already
these.
voiced in the previous two my concerns. I think a recommendation would be appropriate, Preston.
Hold on.
That
Yeah,
gives
I
me-
want to hear other people too.
Preston's proposal gives me less heartburn. It just, that's hard to get rid of open space, especially for residents who were planning for it.
Okay. Preston, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make it if people are done.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, I'd like to make a recommendation to approve the motion of item 5.3 with the two city-stated recommendations and a third additional one to consider adding open space to the southeast quadrant connecting the two trail head connect, or the trail connection points as an open space, fully open space.
I think that's clear. So we have a motion by Preston. Does somebody
Guess
want
I'll
to
second that.
Okay, we have a second by Brody. Again, do a roll call vote on this motion. Again, this is a motion to recommend approval with the two plus the additional items. So Brody?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Heather?
No.
Preston?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
Andrea?
No.
Okay. That motion does move forward with a positive recommendation with a vote of 4-2 with, as stated. Okay, we'll move on to item 6. I just appreciate everybody tonight. It was, I thought it'd be a shorter night, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We want to make sure we're doing this right, and we do appreciate the comments coming in. So thank you for being here tonight as well. Yeah, so it'll be interesting. Next week, we'll have these before the city council, and we'll see where we go from there. Any other thoughts from the commission tonight? Move forward. Michael, it looks like you would like to make a comment during our comment period, but go ahead.
I've shared this with you before, but I appreciate the diversity of the voices. I appreciate you really weighing in on these issues. Again, I think the difficulty we had is you can see clearly multiple options here. Yeah, we need more of that kind of positive exchange of information. So thank you for being willing to speak up. That's your role, and I'm sure we'll look forward to having these conversations with the city council.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you to all of you for all the information and bringing all this to us. We appreciate it, and thank you, Ryan, for coming to the table with the city.
Yeah. Okay. Future meetings, so as mentioned, next week, city council meeting on the 23rd. 2 weeks from now, we'll have a joint city council and planning commission meeting, and then our next planning commission meeting will be on May 7th. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. So a motion by Heather. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Jackson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Jackson, you gonna be around on the 4th or 21st of May?